Beautiful. This melody begins like this. Try that. Beautiful. Next piece. Let's try that. I'll sing all of that together one time, and then we can do all together. Let's try together. The second part is almost the same, just has a different ending. I'll sing it once for you. Put those two pieces together. Good morning, Boker Tov. Good afternoon to folks in the East online. There's a story of Rabbi Yisrael of Rishon that there was a time when there was a crisis, an impending crisis in the Jewish community of Apt. Probably an impending pogrom, something like that. And the decree had come, and the rabbi of Apt declared a period of fasting to try to avert whatever was going to happen, which is a common practice in Judaism and also other traditions. The idea being that if we voluntarily take on some suffering, then we can somehow burn off whatever negative karma is going to is behind whatever disaster is impending. So that's what the rabbi of Apt did, declared a fast. And Rabbi Yisrael of Rishon, when he heard about this, went and hired a bunch of musicians and had them come to his house and play on the balcony. And they would play their klezmer melodies. And the Hasidim that were coming by, whenever they would hear that, at first they were kind of shocked, like, we're in this period of mourning, of ascetic practice, and yet here it is, this joyful music is happening, and it would be contagious, and before they knew it, they would start dancing. And they would be having, getting happy, getting joyful. And someone came to the rabbi of Apt who had declared the fast and complained to him and said, "What is this guy doing? This Hasidic Rebbe in our midst is telling people to dance during your fast." And the rabbi of Apt said, he said, "Who am I to criticize someone who has really taken to heart the mitzvah that it says in the Torah that when the enemy is approaching that you should sound the trumpets." So there's a line in the Torah that talks about war and says when the enemy is approaching, and you get ready to do battle, you should sound the trumpets to prepare for the battle. And so he likens this to the music. There's a psalm, which is a prayer poem, in a sense, the Psalms in the Bible, written according to our tradition, written by King David. And one of them says, "Ivdu et Hashem besimcha," that you should serve the divine with joy. And that's a basic concept, of course, in Hasidism, which is where this story, the thrust of this story is coming from, which we could understand really on two different levels. On one level, it came in the Hasidic tradition, it came to counteract the scholarly seriousness, which was the dominant attitude in Jewish religious culture at that time. Got too serious, too contracted, too devoid of life, and a lot of Hasidic teaching comes to counteract that and remind practitioners that in order for religious practice to have any reality, it has to be done from the heart. It has to be done with joy. But on another level, we could understand that it's not just saying that when you do a religious practice, you should do it with joy, but Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, that actually the practice of being joyful is itself a service of the divine. It's itself a way to, it's a spiritually appropriate way to be. It has spiritual value. And this seems to come in contrast to a lot of our experience, because a lot of life is A lot of things in our experience are kind of a bummer, not very joyful. And there's a book in the Bible, which in English is known as Ecclesiastes. Yeah, in Hebrew it's called Kohelet, which means the preacher, and it's written by, according to tradition, written by King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech. And the tone of this book seems to be negative, but it's actually not. What it is, I think, is it seeks to make our joy not naive. But it's not anti-joy at all. It's actually pro-joy, but it seeks to make our joy be based on authenticity instead of just pretending things are okay when they're not. So for example, you may know the beginning of Kohelet, where it says Havel Havalim. Havel is often translated as vanity. Havel Havalim, vanity of vanity. It says Kohelet, Havel Havalim, Hakol Havel. Everything is vanity. But sometime in some translations it translates it as futility. But a better translation of this word, Havel, is probably like transiency. It's not saying that things are futile. Like if you understand it as futile, then it's a very depressing message. It's saying like don't bother doing anything. There's no point doing anything. But that's not what it's saying at all. Rather, it's asking, what is the motivation behind what we're doing? And is our motivation to get something that we ultimately can't have? So it says afterward, Ma yitron la'adam b'chol amalo. What gain is there? What profit is there for a person in all of the effort that they make? Sheya'amol tachat hashamesh, that they are laboring, that they are working under the sun. Dor holech v'dor ba, a generation goes and a generation comes. V'ha'aretz le'olam omadet. But the earth is standing continuously. So it's referencing the earth below, it's referencing the sun above, as if to say, this stuff is just going on, and we're striving, but it calls it a striving after wind and havel, vanity or transience. Now there's a line that clarifies the meaning of it that comes a little bit later on. Very interesting. It says, there's nothing good for a person but to eat and drink and enjoy the goodness from their own effort. So it's the same word, that word for effort. It said, what profit is there? What gain is there for a person in all of their efforts? But then it tells you what the profit is. The profit is that you should enjoy it. Enjoy it right now. In other words, if we're working towards something that's going to ensure something for the future, that's going to be solid, then forget about it. Because a generation comes, a generation goes. There's a time for living, there's a time for dying. Everything that we have will eventually go away. Sounds depressing. But on the other hand, there's a blessing that is present right now, in every right now, that we can actually enjoy, and that's where the deeper happiness comes from. The deeper happiness doesn't come from putting off our enjoyment till later. In other words, this book, Ecclesiastes, is really a teaching on presence. It's amazing. And then it gives at the end of the verse that I was just saying, there's nothing good for a person to eat or drink and enjoy the goodness of their efforts. It sounds a little bit materialistic, but then it puts the icing on the cake at the end, because everything comes from the hands of the divine. In other words, this is not just a religious belief that's grafted on top of something that's materialistic. This is showing us the pathway to truly enjoy. is that we realize that the gift of this moment is coming to us as a kind of grace. It doesn't matter what idea we have in our mind about what God is or whether we believe in it. That's not the point. The point is the relational aspect, that this moment is to be enjoyed, and that enjoyment is a form of service. It's a form of giving. When we do the meditation, we always start off with hand on the heart, and we're giving our awareness as an act of love. That's the way we approach it. This is an aspect of that I haven't really talked about yet so much. It's not just that we're giving awareness as an act of love, but in doing so, we're actually enjoying the moment. We're allowing enjoyment of simply being to be there, and we're appreciating it. And that itself is an act of service. We all know that it's not very pleasant to be in the presence of someone who is complainy, who doesn't appreciate things, who takes things for granted. It's not just when we give them something and they don't appreciate it, but just in general, just to be with someone who is not enjoying life is, in a way, a kind of disservice to those around them. And when someone is happy, when someone is appreciating, it lights us up. It gives us a window into that if we choose to take that opportunity. So there's something in our Parsha this week. This week's Parsha is kind of related to this theme because it's called Hayei Sarah, and the story has these bookends of death. The beginning of the Parsha begins with the death of Sarah. The end of the Parsha is with the death of Abraham. And in the middle, the main bulk of the story is Abraham trying to ensure something for the future. So on the surface, it seems maybe like it's contradicting King Solomon. He sends his servant Eliezer out to find a wife for Isaac, and it's a big ordeal. It's like he says he makes him swear, don't get a wife for Isaac from this land where we are. You have to go back to this other land and make this big effort. And yet, if you read the story, you'll see that when he goes out to accomplish his task, everything happens easefully. Everything happens serendipitously. He meets the right woman immediately. He makes a prayer. He says, the woman should be like this. She should offer me something to drink and offer my camels to drink too. And immediately she appears. It's like a miracle. And so, on the surface, it may seem like Abraham is trying to get something trying to ensure his lineage, trying to ensure his future. But we know from the last Parsha, that kind of crazy, somewhat grisly story about that he's willing to sacrifice his son. God tells him to sacrifice his son. Okay. Havel Havalim. He's not holding on to anything. His whole dream is this grand lineage that was going to be started is dropped before him. And the key seems to be that it's not to put up on a pedestal murdering your child. That's I think a way of looking at the story that leads us in an unhelpful direction. But rather to see that what we really have, and it's something we always have, it's something we have right now, is not insurance for the future. Yeah, we can pay money to have insurance for our house or life insurance. Not that we shouldn't do those things, but just to say that none of those things are solid. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantee of anything. But there is something that is sure. There is something that is solid, and that is the fact of being in this moment. So when Eliezer goes to find Rivka, the wife for Isaac, he's doing it just as an act of he's just doing it to serve the divine. He's being led. And so the thing just unfolds serendipitously. And that's the way life can feel when we are surrendered, when we're not possessed by the delusion of trying to grasp at something for the future, but instead we have our consciousness rooted in the present moment. And there's a verse that really embodies this that I mentioned on Sunday, which is that after Eliezer comes to Rivka's family and explains the whole thing and says, I want Rivka to come with me to meet Isaac and so on, the family says, Me Hashem yatsa hadavar. This whole thing is coming from the divine. Lo nuchal daber alecha ra o tov. It's not possible for us to judge whether it's good or bad. The thinking mind is always trying to navigate towards something good in the future, ensure something good in the future. But when we come deeply into the present, that involves a letting go of judging, a letting go of trying to navigate and categorize as good and bad, and instead receiving this moment from the hands of the divine. And then, of course, we still use the mind and we still judge. It's not to deny that fact of, that need, that necessity in order to navigate life. But where are we rooted? Are we in a state of, as it says, grasping after wind? What's the verse here I have? Oh, well, I can't find it now in Hebrew, but it's grasping. He calls it grasping after wind. You can't grasp wind. The wind is blowing. It's there, but you can't grab it and possess it and stop it. The very nature of wind is that it's moving. If you were to grab it, if you were to take a cup and put the wind in the cup, and there's air in there, but it's no longer wind. And so wind is really a great metaphor, because this moment right now is flowing in us. It's flowing around us. It's flowing toward us. We can't capture it. We can't capture it physically, and we can't capture it intellectually either. We can't really understand what it is to exist. And yet here we are doing it. So we can work with it, though, in a way that brings about simcha, in a way in which we can have enjoyment of the moment and also consciously have gratitude for that enjoyment. And in doing so, we receive the only path that is actually consistently giving us fulfillment. So, but to do that, we have to let go of the tov and the ra, the good and the bad. We don't have to navigate ourselves into this moment. We have to simply connect with it and open to it as it is. So the chant that I want to do today is from the blessing before the Shema. It comes right before the morning Shema, and it says, Havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz, which means gather us together from the four corners of the earth. And in the literal understanding of that, it's talking about the Jewish people returning to the land. But on a deeper level, V'havienu l'shalom, it's a recognition that our minds and our hearts unconsciously are moving away from this moment. Unconsciously we become more concerned with what is not present than what is present. And so Havienu l'shalom means gather us together. Let us become one again. Let us connect with the wind, the ruach, not try to capture it, but breathe it. The wind that's flowing in and out right now. all of our senses, sense of the room around us, the sounds, feeling of the body. Also the ruach of feeling. Emotions may arise as we sit. Sometimes emotions come pleasant or unpleasant. But if we connect with them without judging, tov or ra, without judging good or bad, simply bringing our consciousness to be intimate with the wind of feeling as it comes and goes. Not needing to control the mind or to try to get rid of thoughts. Thoughts too are like wind blowing through the mind. They come, they enter, and if we don't follow them and grasp onto them, then they also just dissipate on their own. And in this way, the level of feeling, the level of thought, the level of sensation, all can collect into a oneness that is presence in this moment. Havienu, gathering us into oneness. Shalom, which means peace, but it also means wholeness. It also means oneness. So as we sing the words, we can practice doing that, allowing the words to help to collect us into that oneness. Havienu. Let's try that. Havienu. And then Havienu l'shalom, gathering us together in peace and wholeness. Havienu l'shalom. Let's try that. Havienu l'shalom. Havienu l'shalom. Havienu. Havienu. Havienu l'shalom. Havienu. Havienu. Havienu l'shalom. right hand to your heart, taking the attitude of simply giving your awareness to the fullness of this moment. Not judging tov or ra, not judging good or bad, but allowing the inner goodness of that benevolent willingness to give, to be with this moment as it is, to offer presence to reality as it presents itself, without judgment. And knowing that this is our blessing, this is our birthright, to be able to allow this inner joy, this inner simcha, to be of service through our joy, through the pleasure of simply being, of letting go of the grasping of the mind for this and that in the future, for trying to ensure something, for trying to grab onto the wind in any way, but rather letting the wind blow in this moment, to allow this moment to be as wind blowing through our field of awareness. And we offer this awareness with the word lecha, which means for you, the offering word lecha. Deep breath in. Lecha. And bringing left hand also to your belly. Feeling awareness down into all of your organs, gratitude for all of the life processes of the body supporting our existence in this moment. Feeling downward from the belly, down into your legs, down to your feet and toes. Feeling awareness shining upward from the belly into the chest, heart and lungs, shoulders and neck, upper back, flowing down through your arms to your hands and fingers, connecting back with your belly and chest. And feeling awareness shining upward into your face, brain, skull, eyes and ears, nose and mouth, bringing a little smile to your lips to express this generosity of presence, feeling the flow of your breathing, resting awareness on the flow of the ruach, the flow of the wind in and out. And anchoring this body awareness with na'aseh. Deep breath in. Na'aseh. Left hand on your belly, bringing right hand to lightly touch your forehead. And noticing that the awareness that fills your body is also aware of the space around your body. And that in fact our perception of the room around us, of sounds, of beings, of things, that all of that perception arises within this one field of awareness that is both within and without. The fullness of this moment, not separate from the field of awareness that you are. And you are this openness, this presentness. V'nishma, on long out breath. Deep breath in. V'nishma. kissing fingers, relaxing your hands. At Yahu. You are the divine. You, the fullness of this moment, the fullness of what is, the isness of this moment, is the divine that we serve through our presence. At Yahu. At Yahu. Chant inward, letting it vibrate in your mind. Again, not striving after the wind of thought, not striving to get rid of it, and not striving to follow it and be involved with it, but just allowing it to blow as it does, being aware of it, being awake to the presence of thought, acknowledging that it's there, and then returning a little bit more deeply to the flow of breathing and to the inner vibration of the chant. And we'll sit for about 15 minutes. I forgot to say, if your cell phone is on, it'd be good to make sure that it's silent or off. Meditation, bringing right hand once again to your heart, offering awareness from the heart with Lecha, deep breath in, Lecha, bringing left hand to your belly, feeling awareness down to all of your organs, flowing down into your legs, feet and toes, shining upward into your chest, upper back, shoulders and neck, down through your arms and hands and fingers, filling your face, your brain, your skull, your nervous system, all of your facial muscles, bringing a little smile to your lips, feeling the flow of your breathing. Na'aseh, deep breath in. Na'aseh. Right hand to lightly touch your forehead, aware now of the space around you, the space beyond your body. And knowing that everything you perceive around you in the room is arising in this field of consciousness that has no boundary, no border, no shape. And you are this open field within and beyond the body. Venishma, deep breath in. Kissing fingers, relaxing the hand. And so as we continue in this week of Parshat Hayei Sarah with the awareness of the transience of everything, of the Havel, of the nature of this moment, the nature of experience, which is like blowing wind. May we let go of that tendency to grasp onto something that is not solid, and instead open ourselves to the blessing of this moment, returning consciousness again and again, letting go of the impulse to judge good or bad in this moment, and instead knowing the goodness, the inherent inner goodness that we are, that does not have an opposite, because it's goodness simply in being aware of what is, the isness of this moment. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Amen. Take a stretch. Get the blood moving. Thank you everybody so much for coming and practicing together. Thank you folks for tuning in online. Great to be with you all. Be well.